All right, let's put some safaris in, shall we? I'm going to try to do this a little bit different than I did. I made another video a little while back, quite a few years ago, on putting these in. And I'm going to try to make it a little bit easier to watch this time. So anyway, I'll show you a little bit how I do it. And let me grab them real quick, unpackage them. They're right in the box still. That's how they come in the box. This set is made by Welding in the USA, so a little more money than some of the others. One window in place. Well, that was a screw up. I got two right side windows. Guess they were in a bit of a hurry. Check it out. So I got this one, and I got this one. Look at that. That doesn't happen. So let me call to find out what's happening and get another one. I'll tell you guys what happened. I'll tell you what happened with this thing. With the coronavirus, they had to lay off 6 people, and I'm sure one of the pack and ship guys was one of the ones they laid off. And that I've never heard of or gotten two of the same windows ever from them. So it can happen. They'll take care of it, I'm sure, and it won't be a problem. But it's kind of a pain for this video, isn't it? But what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to put it in this side. The other side's done the same, and we'll just work on that from there. So generally what I do is I center it, which I've already done, on the outside. And then if you can see here, I have the hinge folded back. If you can see, it's folded all the way back. So all I'm looking for is the center. So if you can see, the hinge is just folded all the way back. The hinge normally would mount up higher, but I fold it all the way back just so I can see that hole. If you can see right here, little hole, and I just mark it right there where that hole is. Ah, my bad mark. How's that? A little better. It's like centered on that. Okay, so I'll mark that. Then I flip the hinge up. So now it's up. And if it's really good if you have 2 people. And then what I'll do is I'll actually flip it up and mark it again inside and make sure it lines up with this mark. So of course I moved it a little bit. Let me see if it still lines up. Alright, so here, if you see here, there's like a little hinge notch right here. All the buses all have this little hinge notch in them. And the hinge is supposed to be this hinge that's on here. So they all come ready for safaris. The original safaris, I've had a couple vans over the years that had them, actually had threaded screws, sort of like what's in the pop outs on the sides. They kind of had them threaded in there. So of course the kit comes with sheet metal screws. So what I usually do is I look at this here and I eye this part. Now you want to try and measure it, you can, but I'll eye out so that this is centered on, and what I do is I take a piece of 1/4 inch tape and start with my mark in the middle, and I just come around here and put it like this. I've done it without the 1/4 inch tape. I've just eyed it and just hit a little line or a dot and then just went in there. Almost always when I put it in, this is going to be a little bit off. So, don't beat yourself up if you don't get it right the first time, because what you do is you go, okay, well, I'm a little bit off, so the next hole you drill a little bit off, the direction you need it to go. So, and then you come back and then re-drill this one. So just try and, eye it the best you can. Is what I do is I'll center it between this thing and this thing. I'll put a screw right in there right now. In this case, I just went ahead and drilled a hole. All right, so it's been a while since I put one of these up on myself, and I'm going to see if I can do it. But I usually just kind of tuck my head underneath it and shove it up in place. If I drop it, don't laugh. It's, yeah, I do have another right side. It'd be a really expensive mistake, wouldn't it? Really fun with the paints on here already. Then I get lucky. Every once in a while I get one that goes in the right place, but usually it's off. And this one's just a little off. I might be able to adjust it. So that's what I'm saying. The holes are bigger than so I put the center one in. See if it's gonna make it. Yeah, maybe. That's a little off. Of course, so is my body work, right? That's why I'm putting these in. I could get it right, believe me. So it's here, a little tight on this side. Maybe that's okay. When I put the rest of the hinge bolts in, it'll probably line up pretty good. But all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put one in, and then what I'm going to do, and I notice my gap is a little wider here than over here, and maybe it'll even out when I tighten up, put up all the screws in it. And I might just put them a little bit, when I drill the next holes, I might drill them all a little bit to this side, so that when I could loosen the middle one up and slide it over, or have to drill a second hole there, which happens a lot, so in the middle. So the rest of them I'll try and line up. So what I'll do is when I lift this up, I'll put the next hole, instead of being centered, I'll make it over to here so that I can slide it over that way more, because it's going to need to definitely go that way. Okay, so the next thing I'll do is you want to put on your metal pieces on here. See if I can get the camera set up for that. So inside your kit you should have two bigger ones like this and two smaller ones, and those are to mount for your latches. And then you should have two of these raw unpainted ones like this, and one of these center brackets. So the center bracket mounts, you take this off here, and you should have 4 wing nuts. You know, I think there's 8 of those plastic washers, there should be, or maybe there's only 4 of them. I can't remember. Should be, I think there should be 8, but there might be only 4. This is the top of this bracket. See how it's shaped? You know, tapered. It's not. This is upside down. This is right side up. And this will go on right here. And normally what I do is you need it to shut all the way. I mean, that's the most important thing. So what I usually do is I'll put it up here, and actually I'll put the wing nut in through this hole, and then tighten it up a little bit, so that I know where it's all the way up. So you can actually see it from the other side. This hole, this slot right here should line up with this thing here, and I just take it all the way up, and then I just drop it maybe 1/8 of an inch. Okay, because this window might be a little off. You know, by the time you put the next window in, it could be a little bit different than this one. And then what happens is, by the time you get to the other end, you might be a little bit off. So I'll put it in here, and I'll line it up to where it's just a little bit below, and then I'll make a mark here on the inside, grind it. I'll make the mark that goes all the way across. I'll grind just the center of it, because the only place it needs to be welded is right here and right here in the middle. So later on I'll show you, after I weld mine in, the way it looks when it's in place. I'll put it in place there, and I'll do the same thing on the other side with one of these brackets. Okay, versus trying to measure it, because almost every time I try and measure something, I'll end up with it in the wrong place. That's just me. So maybe if you're like me, you'll want to just put it in place and check it. So I'll put this one up over there. I'll mark it the same way. These are both the same, I believe. Maybe they aren't. I think they are the same. Yeah, if I remember right. It's been a while since I put a set of these in. But I'll put that one on over there, or this one. Either one. I'll put it in the corner over there. I'll mark it, and then I'll mark all the way across, and then I'll just grind a small area in the middle so that I can still see the line when I put it up there. And then I'll weld that one in too. So we'll take a look at how they look once in. And then that's usually how I measure it. And then I want it, then when I tack them, I'm gonna tack them in place, and then I'm gonna raise the window up all the way. And I wanna make sure that the window goes up level this way too. So make sure it shuts all the way. And usually if it shuts all the way, it's gonna go up level, okay? If you have a little bit of a gap here, it doesn't usually go all the way to the far corner. Usually if it's just a little bit of a gap, it still opens all the way. So that's usually what I've found. So let's take a look. I'll go ahead and put them in and go ahead and weld them in place, and we'll take a look at it. Oftentimes people forget to leave this gap in here for the rubber. So make sure you leave a gap there. I always do on mine. So I just welded in, lined it up with the lines, welded it in, ground it down on that one. Well, it didn't help much that I burned a couple holes up here, so I had to weld those up, but that's all you need to do is weld the center of it, because remember, your rubber is going to fit in here. So you just weld a little bit in the middle. I usually put a little bit smaller weld than that, but like I said, I burned through. So it's no big deal. You can always get some epoxy putty out, repair it, the little filler, do whatever you need to do to make it look good when you're done. I've even welded them in actually with the glass in. Not recommended, because if you do that, you're going to get some pits in it. Make sure it's far enough away from where you're welding. If you do happen to do that, just take a razor blade. Usually it knocks them right out, those little metal pieces that get embedded in the glass. You might see it a little bit, but I'm just letting you know if you do that, it's, make that mistake, there's always a way out of it. Got the last one marked and clamped in place, and the last one. So then what I do is, after this, I'll just put all the rest of the faries in, put all the screws in, which I'm not going to do right now. And then after I put those in, I'll line these little pieces up here. So the long ones go over here. What I do is I put the window down, and then that'll help you line it up where these need to be. They need to be centered there. The long ones go on this side. Make sure there's enough gap in here for this, for the rubber. Okay. And put those there, and then put the short one in the middle. Well, that's another long one. Let's see. That's a short one. Too short and too long, so you can see they're longer. Short ones go in the middle. Line it up, center it with that one. Sometimes you'll find that the screws, you have to grind a little bit of the head off to get the latch to shut all the way. Just so you know, when you put the latch down, sometimes the latch will touch the top of the screw, and it's just kind of the way they are, because the original screws were a little bit flatter. So sometimes you have to grind the head of the screw down just a little bit so you can make it latch down all the way. I use a cutoff wheel to do that. Be very careful. Anyway, then that's all there is to it. So once you do all that, you put them in, but I'm not going to put them in right now because we're going to get this thing ready to paint. I just wanted to have these welded in first. Now, if you're doing it after paint, of course you'd want to probably pack this with some of that putty. I don't know if you guys have any of that. They have this stuff called wet rag. You could pack all around the area. You're still going to have some burnage going on. But if you put all this stuff all around this area here, on the inside and around here, up above and below, it'll kind of help that, concentrate the stuff from. You can even use a wet rag if you want. I mean, that's the whole reason that they made this called wet rag, right? But that's what we used to use. I used to use a wet rag and just wipe it around, put it around an area where we were going to weld, because we didn't have big welders. We would use a torch. So Been a long time since I've done that. All right, so that's how they ended up looking. Just so you can see that one there. And I don't have all the screws in the middle yet, but you can see that it gets out pretty level when you use that line-up method. And then what we'll do is we'll take it back down. Here, let me loosen it up. So when it's all the way down, it's locked in right there. Doesn't it opens up all the way, shuts all the way. It's going crooked right now because I don't have all the screws in the top. But you can see all of it's functional, works good. So if you line up the bottoms, I usually use about 1/8 of an inch or so from it being open all the way, or from it being at the top. And then that usually makes it so when it's all the way up, it still goes all the way open and gets level. So anyway, this one should be fine too. I just put it in the same place. I'm only going to put the one in for now, but at least you can see how that worked out. I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And let me know what you think. Make a comment. Talk to you in the next one.